Well, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. I hope you can forgive me for the scruff on my face. It's coming winter, so it's time to grow that winter beard. So next time you see me, it should look a little bit better. But we'll get right into the lesson this morning. It's from Acts chapter 9, and I will be reading verses 1 through 9, and I guarantee you this is a familiar story to everybody. So, reading from Acts chapter 9, verses 1 through 9. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any there who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him, and he fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," he replied. "Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." The men traveling with Saul stood there speechless. They heard the sound but did not see anyone. Saul got up from the ground, but when he opened his eyes, he could see nothing. So they led him by the hand into Damascus. For 3 days he was blind and did not eat or drink anything. So like I said, this is a very, very familiar verse to each and every one of us. We've all heard this story, but we're going to take a little bit of a different look at this morning. First off, I want you to know where Paul was, right? Where is he at, and where is he kind of going? So prior to this, Paul was in Jerusalem, and with great zeal and zest and fervor, he was persecuting and having arrested those what they called the Way. Now, the Way, if you don't know what that is, the Way is a sect of Judaism at the time that believed that Jesus Christ was the Messiah and was the person that he said he was. And if you were part of the Way, that Jewish sect of the Way, you weren't necessarily a Christian per se, but you were a religious Jew that believed that the Messiah had come in the form of Jesus Christ, was died, resurrection, and ascended back into heaven. And Paul was out to get those guys, and you can see even that through the first ones that he was breathing out murderous threats towards the disciples of the Way. So we can pretty much tell that he didn't like those dudes very much, or the women either. He just didn't care for them all that much. And so he went to the high priest and he asked, "Let me go to Damascus. Let me see if there's any of these people of the Way so we can take care of them. So we can bind them up, put them in cuffs, drag them back to the Jerusalem, and have a trial for them." So we can see that Paul wasn't real happy with who he was after. And Paul, for his sake, probably thought he was doing the right thing, right? I mean, he's a Pharisee of Pharisees. He's a great student of the law. He studied under Gamaliel. He was a smart guy. And he had a lot of religious fervor for God. But up until this point, he thought the Jesus thing was a hoax, right? He probably believed the blasphemies that they said he had said and spoke, that Jesus had spoke. And so at this point in time, he probably thinks that these people of the Way are causing more trouble, right? They're causing more harm than good. But something interesting happens on the road. And that's what we want to actually focus on today, is what happens on the road, on the journey. See, a lot of times in our own lives, we see the journey as going from point A to point B, right? If I was standing up walking around, I could give you a lot more demonstrative movements with my body and language, but I'm sitting, so we can't do that. But we're going to say point A is over here and B is over here. A lot of times in life, we got to get from point A to whatever point B might be at that time. And a lot of times, there's many people that get stuck at point A. Right, they're at point A and they never quite get there, right? They never get started to get over to point B because they're stuck in their own ways, or they're stuck for whatever reason, or they get in this habit of, they go, well, if God would do fill in the blank, then I would be able to fill in the blank. right? They're always waiting for something else to spark them. They're always waiting for something else to spark them and kind of get them going and get going down that road and get going down that journey to where they should be going. And so they sit at this idle spot of point A, right? It might be comfortable, it might not be comfortable. It's hard to say. It's different for each and every person's life. But a lot of times they just sit there idle. And I can give you an example. I know a guy, I've known him for a long time, and bachelor, lived alone, but he kept saying, as soon as God brings a woman into my life, then I'll go forward. Right? He wasn't going to change his ways at all. Right? And maybe he needed to. Maybe sometimes we need to change our ways to make something happen. But we can't do that sitting idle at point A. And so when we finally decide to get from point A to point B, right? When we want to go over here, we got to get started. Right? We got to get started in this point. It's kind of like somebody who starts a diet, right? And let's say I wanted to start a diet today, but then I would go something like, well, it's my son's birthday tomorrow, and it really is my son's birthday tomorrow, so we're going to go out to eat, we're going to have cake, we're going to have ice cream. I'm not going to have that today. And you know what? We're getting awfully close to Thanksgiving, and there's a potluck at church, so I should probably wait until after that, and then all of a sudden it's the Thanksgiving season. We get to Thanksgiving, and wow, I got all these leftovers. I can't throw those away, so I better wait on that. And oh my goodness, now we're into Christmas season and all the baked goods and all the different things that show up at the office, and people are giving out good stuff. And so I should probably just wait until after Christmas, and you know what? I'll make that resolution on New Year's. Never left point A, right? Might have any intentions of leaving, but we didn't leave point A, so we haven't gotten anywhere. A lot of times when we leave point A, we're looking point B, right? Because we think when we get here, this is where the blessings happen. Wherever we're going, that's where the blessings are going to happen. That's what we think, right? In Paul's case, he's leaving Jerusalem and he's thinking, man, I've persecuted a whole lot of people over here. I'm helping out in the way, but when I get to point B, when I get to Damascus, man, I'm really going to be able to do God's work over here. And we set those goals and we try and get over there and we try and get to point B. But the interesting thing is that the blessings don't come here. Because along the road, between point A and point B, that's where God changes us. That's where God blesses us. That's where God does what needs to be done in our lives to make our journey to point B when we get there successful. Right? If I need to give you another example, let's think, go all the way back to Jacob. And you've heard me talk about Jacob, but Jacob, right, he was living in his father-in-law's house. He had gotten 2 wives, and it was time for him to go, right? And he took all the stuff, and he's leaving. And he's going down the road, right? As he's journeying to where he's going to go, all of a sudden he finds out that his brother Esau is out in front of him. And he's coming his way. And now Jacob's worried. Right? Jacob's pretty freaked out because he knows that Esau is probably ticked off at him that little thing to do with, some soup and a birthright and a blessing from their father, and how he manipulated and got that out of Esau. And so he's worried that something bad's going to happen when he runs into him, right? And so he takes and he splits his people up and he splits his flocks up and he splits everything up because he's worried about what happens when he gets to the destination. But it's interesting because when he's on that journey, when he's on that road, he can't go backwards. Can't go back to father-in-law. He's worried about what's at point B, right? What's in front of him. But along the road, something amazing happens. God sends one of his angels that wrestles with Jacob. And when he wrestles with Jacob all night and Jacob demands a blessing and won't let go, eventually that angel puts his hip socket out of place. And if you read the text, it says that he has a limp for the rest of his life. He can't get away from Esau. See, Jacob ran all of his life. He ran, he manipulated, he He talked people into things, but when he was in trouble, he's going to skedaddle. But that angel changes him. He makes it so he can't run anymore because he's limping all the time. Did it happen at point A? Nope. Didn't happen at point B because he hadn't gotten there yet. It was along the road, right? It was along that journey that God was able to change his life. And change it for the better. And we see a lot of great and wonderful things that happened to Jacob and his family after this. But it was along the road. I'll give you another good example of how God changes us along the journey. My wife, I can't remember how long ago it was, maybe not quite 2 years ago, she did the thing that a lot of us should do, and that she didn't go on a diet. She decided that she was just going to change the way she ate. Right? She didn't call it a diet. She didn't say, I'm just cutting out sugar, or I'm cutting out carbs, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. No, she just said, I'm going to change the way I eat. And she didn't tell me. She didn't tell any of us kids. Us kids, yeah, I called myself a kid. Yeah, it's pretty true. But my wife didn't tell anybody. She just started changing things, right? She just started a lot of different types of Greek yogurt, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, watching the portions that she was putting onto her plate, because we all generally take too big of portions when we eat. And she just changed her diet. She changed how she ate. Now her goal was that she started at point A and she didn't let anything stop her from going to what she thought point B was. Now that point B might be, I'm going to lose X amount of weight, I'm going to do this, or whatever point B was for her. She was on that road, but amazingly enough, it did some other things for her along the way. Not only did it help her lose some weight, but it gave her more energy, right? She wasn't banking on that part. Helped her think better. Gave her more self-confidence. Helped her to start doing other things, and along the way, she got to point B, and all of a sudden, the journey didn't end there. See, because my wife, something you wouldn't know about her, because you guys really don't know Melissa, but she does not like exercise all that much, right? She likes to go hiking and walking and doing those types of things with like elliptical machines and treadmills and stuff like that, lifting weights. That's not her gig, right? That's not things she likes to do. But as she got close to what her goal was over here, all of a sudden, she decided to start doing yoga, which isn't something that she's normally done, but her thought process changed. And so all of a sudden she started yoga. And that changed her because she started getting more flexible. She started getting stronger. She started having more stamina. Now, from point A to where we are way over here now that's off the screen, all of a sudden now she went from just somebody who wanted to eat healthier to now she actually is a certified yoga instructor. That wasn't point B for her. But see, along that road, God had the opportunity to change her. See, it's only when we step out of our comfort zone and we're along the road, when we're going from one point to the other, that God has the chance and the opportunity to change us and to bless us. We so often get hung up on what's over here at point B, that we don't see what's going on in the journey, right? Because God changes us a little bit at a time, right? It's not usually just a big karoom and bang them down and everything's different, right? God takes his time. And when we're on that road, when we're on the journey, right, we need to recognize that God's there with us. A lot of times we look back and we go, hey, yeah, God was over there back then when I saw him. And we say, hey, God's out there front, right? He's at point B. But God's in between too, right? He's right in the middle of all that. He's all the way out here, and he's all the way here, and all the way in between. And if we just trust him, right? If we just trust him to walk with us on our journey, he will change who we are for the better. He'll make us all better men and women. So just enjoy the journey when you're on the road, right? let time take its course to get to point B. Because if you're still on the road, that means God's still working on you. And that's a beautiful thing. Nice to see everybody. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Just praise God, worship Him, have a great time. In Jesus' name, see you next time.